Throughout history, animals had a role during battles, whether in transporting soldiers and equipment such as camels, unlike horses that were the measurement of the army's strength in ancient times. And in general, humans were able to transform a number of animals into fatal weapons, stronger than any sword and more accurate than any arrow. Hello, here are Joe and Pro from Wiki Army Planets, and in this episode we're gonna talk about the merciless recruitment of animals in wars throughout history.
Dogs are considered the most important animals in terms of helping humans, such as herding, guarding, searching, rescuing, and even chasing. But in wars, in the 1940s, the Soviet Union took advantage of dogs differently. When the Germans attacked Moscow in 1941, the Soviet forces were in an unenviable position with the lack of effective anti-tank weapons. And out of desperation, they decided to use dogs to confront enemy tanks. The idea was to tie an explosive charge consisting of 12 kilometers of TNT and training dogs to crawl under the tank. And when the dog hits the bottom of the tank, the explosion occurs. In fact, they have been preparing for the idea since the 30s, without the training, nor than the idea itself. They left the dogs to starve to death, and then they put a piece of meat under the tank so the dogs would always find food under that kind of tanks. And the training also involved the sound of fire, so that the dogs wouldn't be afraid during the war. But the experiment was tragic. On one hand, the dogs weren't covered against bullets, so it was an easy target for enemy forces. And on the other hand, the tanks that the dogs were trained on were different from the German tanks, which led to the dogs being confused and they didn't know where they should go. However, the Soviet Union continued to train them while correcting these mistakes. And indeed, the dogs proved their effectiveness over the war. It was estimated more than 300 tanks had been destroyed by that idea only. What do you think? If you were the president, would you do that to the dogs? Leave a comment down below. But before you say of course not, dogs are very innocent, then let me tell you that you will be the alternative victim of these dogs. So, will you change your mind?
Several novels and cinematic works have presented the elephant in battles as a fierce and giant animal that can penetrate the enemy's lines, making weapons as harmful as needles. It's an animal capable of changing the course of any battle, although some may think that it is just a movie thing that has no basis in reality. But in fact, the use of elephants in wars was popular in ancient times. Research indicates that the first use of war elephants was around the 4th century BC in India. And over time, all military leaders around the world sought their aid. It is worth noting Alexander the Great, who was impressed by the ability of war elephants with the Persians in 331 BC, and after his victory, he decided to make these elephants a part of his army. However, the use of elephants wasn't limited to battles only. They had an important role to transport heavy equipment. But during the battle, the armies used to deploy them in the middle of the front lines to take advantage of their gigantic size and terrifying sound during the rush.
Because of the terror that elephants were causing among the enemies, the leaders tried to find solutions to confront these giant animals. So pigs were used as one of these solutions. Of course, you might say, stupid idea or something. But in 266 BC, when a leader besieged the Greek city, Megara, it is said that that leader actually succeeded in breaking through because he had war elephants, the strongest weapon then. But I was shocked that the resistance forces fired wild boars, greased with an easily flammable substance. Then the war elephants were so panicked and they began to flee in the opposite direction and took everything in their track. Without any effort, the elephants killed a very large number of soldiers and horses. On the way back, the events of the battle completely changed.
No one can stand in the face of a group of bees. And over time, different peoples have succeeded in benefiting from bees more than just honey. The Greeks and Romans were among the first civilizations to use bees as weapons in wars. Armies were throwing beehives with catapults over the walls of the enemy before they began the attack, in an attempt to disperse the soldiers. And in the Second War between Romans and the Kingdom of Pontus in 72 BC, Romans were besieging a city near the Black Sea coast, and the city was known for its abundant production of honey. So Romans decided to cross from the high walls by digging underground tunnels. Then defenders of the city released tons of bees into the tunnels. They succeeded in expelling them from the tunnels, but Romans was able to occupy the city in 63 BC.
If some people are afraid of bees and some are not, then I think that everyone is afraid of scorpions. At the end of the 2nd century, the Romans were on the way to impose control over Mesopotamia, which is Iraq today. When they attacked it, they were surprised that the sky rained on them scorpions. Fortunately, vessels loaded with scorpions hit them from behind the walls, ceaselessly. Scorpions scattered everywhere, and there was no other choice but to withdraw.